Sorry for the technical issues. This is Google Drive and LU Wi-Fi that never wants to work. So thank you for coming. So I'm Sam. I'm lead OT cybersecurity engineer at Immersive, formerly Immersive Labs. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about IT and OT security and kind of how we can get into OT security, or kind of what can help you to get into OT security, and kind of the differences between that and IT, because it is actually big, but it's also not that big. It just requires a kind of a different mindset. So I'm going to skip this agenda slide. So anybody know what this picture is from English Heritage? Exactly, it does say it. So often, like when we look at Hollywood like series or films, walls get presented as this massive structure that are there to hold threats, protect cities, protect civilizations from what's out there, and they're like this one massive structure. But they were not. A wall is not just the wall. There's many other layers. But for OT security, until like a number of years ago, we only really had a wall. We had not really a wall, an air gap. We had a gap between the IT network, the OT network, and no one could cross it. That was security for OT. How wrong we were. And then with everything, when you see more and more digitalization and you see more and more pressure from the company to be more efficient, you talk about digitalization. And bit by bit, we started making like little holes in that wall. And you think, oh, it's fine, you know, we have this little bit and this little bit. But then at some point, you kind of do not know what is still a wall and what is just an opening. So we started breaching our own environments without properly thinking about it, but purely from a business perspective, we were going through it. And if we then actually think back about like Hadrian's Wall or a wall in ancient times, you had the wall itself, which was an important part of the structure. It was a physical barrier that stopped the attacks from happening, from getting there. But just the wall wouldn't have been effective. So you had mile castles that were surveying if anybody was getting to the walls. You had garrisons behind the wall that were there to kind of send that first response team if there was an attack coming. You had your supply road for your logistics, because otherwise your soldiers didn't have food. You had settlements to be that support group, because otherwise you're just very much alone in your little castle without, you know, the support you need. So they were like from decades, from thousands of years ago, we understood that a physical barrier is not enough. You need more. So why did we for so long think there was enough for OT security? And if you don't know what OT is, it's systems that bridge kind of the digital and the physical gap. So think about in a water treatment plant, what system opens up a valve? What system makes sure that a robot can actually operate? Those are the systems we're talking about. So they're actually also very critical systems. They're nuclear power stations, water treatment plants, or energy grid, oil and gas, manufacturing. So they're very critical. So what we can see is we see two worlds colliding. So we have the IT world, we have the OT world, and we're driving digital transformation. We're wanting real-time data analysis. We want to do remote operations. We want more efficiency and lower costs. So we are doing that remote management. We are making it so that we can have a centralized center that can monitor and operate all of these sites spread across the country. But that leaves the OT world crashing down, because we have legacy OT systems. We have systems that are running on Windows CE version 2 or version 3. We have Windows XP systems. We have systems that run protocols that have no encryption possibilities. And suddenly we're like, yes, let's open these up and kind of make things more efficient for the business. We don't have that security expertise. Like, we have OT engineers. They know how to set up these environments, make these systems, program these systems, but they don't know security. And IT people, security people, we know our EDR, we know all of the security tools and techniques, but they don't map. It's also very complex from a regulatory perspective. Think about NIS2, think about DORA, think about all of these regulations are in place to safeguard our infrastructure that we now have to navigate around. And it actually also puts the business at risk. So there will be operational disruption if anything happens to your environments. There are safety implications, because a lot of these times when an OT environment goes down, there is a risk of safety. There are financial losses. I think in certain sectors, a minute of downtime can be $50,000 a minute of downtime. And there's also a lot of reputational damage as well. So why should we care? Like, I've listed a couple here, but these are massive attacks that have happened. Mainly also we see them happening in Ukraine, but we see nation states actively looking on these environments to try to infiltrate them and try to actually cause disruption. So they took the energy grid offline in Ukraine. They took a pipeline offline. They managed to, or they tried to get safety systems to be impaired. So if nation states are seeing this as a very lucrative focus, we have to take things very seriously. Another thing, 87% increase in ransomware targeting this infrastructure compared to 2023. So people have seen this as an increasingly lucrative financial environment as well. Like I said, $50,000 per minute. So who wouldn't pay $2 million to kind of get rid of it? So the assumption that we had, we won't be targeted, we are safe behind our tall walls, is still a hurdle, because it's not true anymore at all. And organizations are kind of struggling sometimes to comprehend that. And again, we're competing with other resources and many other vendors in the IT sphere that are being put in that don't work. So OT security shouldn't be just an air gap. We also look at network segregation, monitoring systems, incident response, supply chain security, governance, compliance, and these are not that different from what we see in IT. And that's fine. That's all to be expected. We have looked at security. We have figured out security for IT. So why can't we use that knowledge for OT? There are some things that stop us from doing that, because although the high-level goals, the high-level approaches might be the same, the way we look at them are quite different. So if you look at cultures, everybody here should probably know the CIA triad if you do cybersecurity. In OT, we don't really care that much about confidentiality. We care about availability. We don't want our system to go down. Whereas in IT, if the system goes down, we can put it back up. It's not that big of a deal, but you're literally talking about an energy, a windmill that can go offline, a water treatment plant that can go offline. But we don't want it has to keep running. Like to put a nuclear power station offline, it takes days to actually do that. And then it takes days to start it back up. In IT, we always think about immediate patching. Patch Tuesday, let's look at the patches, let's roll it out. If you're in industry, you see how many updates your laptop gets. Like every day you have an update from install this, install that. In the middle of your Teams call, your laptop decides to do a Windows update. We can't do that. It has to all be thoroughly planned. In IT, when you see an intrusion, you can say we contain and we disconnect. We can, handle that. But I cannot just disconnect this device that operates this valve that is necessary, because otherwise my tank will overflow. In IT, we look at 3 to 5 year life cycles. Systems are reasonably new. We are looking at like decades. They're still, and when I talk about these life cycles, it's not just old devices. We have very old devices, but we have still devices being produced as new devices that were initially introduced 20 years ago. because we just swap them out. So it's not that we just have old systems, we have new old systems. So we have those old systems, we have proprietary protocols that, like I say, they don't have security in by design, they don't have encryption. We have tried to bolt on encryption to some of them, which was then horrendously vulnerable. We have limited resources. It's not just the case of running an EDR on our systems, because they probably won't support that, and they don't have the resources to do so. We are in real-time operation, so we cannot afford the downtime. We cannot afford the increase and delay sometimes, because things have to, we have to make sure that things keep running quickly. And also, we are talking about two different kingdoms. So you have the CIO and the CISO, and you have the whole information security organization. Very well thought out. We spend a lot of time on that. But then on the OT side, we often have the COO or the operations responsible to the board. And then they have other people that might have a director of the facility. They have OT engineers. But those people are not there to do cybersecurity. They're there to make sure everything is operational. But then the CIO and the COO don't talk to each other. They don't understand each other's priorities. There is not enough communication between those teams on the ground. If there is not enough communication between the two high-level board members, what communication will there be between, the lower management or even just the foot soldiers, to say it in a military term? So they have different objectives, they have different budget allocations. So why should I, COO, prioritize budget for cyber when I can increase my operations and my revenue, which is my priority? So how do we go about building a unified defense? So we should stop seeing from IT and OT security as like a barrier. It's an integrated system. So we need IT security and OT security to work together, to be one to have one goal. Because we have one goal, we want safe and secure operations. But we need to actually put it in our culture. So we need to make sure that we have a good leadership model, we need to share risk frameworks, we need to create language that we can both understand. And that is kind of where lots of security degrees also and training go wrong. Like, yes, you can do a CISSP, yes, you can do Security Plus, you can do all of those things, but they're just IT focused. Like, there is no real in-depth training on OT from that security perspective. It's coming bit by bit, and you saw this morning. Yes, there is SANS training, but my company doesn't have the budget to spend $10K on me going to Orlando to do a 7-day training. So, like, if you want to get into OT security as a student, you don't have $10K to spend on that. So, but we need that cross-training, we need that understanding, we need things that are compatible. We don't want to spend $5 million on IT security tools and then have no budget for the OT space. We see a growing demand. So if you're looking to kind of go into this space, there's many avenues. So you can be, I didn't put it in, but you can be in like risk and compliance, if that's what interests you. You can be more of an engineer. You can be like an OT SOC analyst. You can be consultant. You can be a researcher in this space. There's lots of opportunity, like ripe for the taking. And if you want to look at things, I've put some certifications on there that are like Security Plus is a good cert to have. It is definitely going to help you get that security job. But just be aware that if you want to go into like OT, don't stop there. Like, learn about Modbus, learn about S7Com, learn about these specific OT terms that are there that engineers also kind of know, because there are a lot of standards that they like to follow. There's a lot of frameworks. But IT people don't know them. Like I learned about HAZOPs and fault tree analysis from a safety perspective, but that's not really something we think about when we scope a pen test for the IT environment. So if you're a student and you want to get into this, like, build yourself a mini lab. You have online tools. You have OpenPLC. is a good one to kind of start building. You have honeypots for OT that you can kind of start messing around with. There is some online courses. There is some communities on LinkedIn, and for example, you can join to kind of. There's lots of webinars coming up now. If you're at an organization, encourage collaboration. That's like your first step. And there are so many quick wins to be had. Like, for example, we spoke about this, I think James Bohr said it, asset management. Visibility in the OT environment is so poor. So it's a quick win to just know what you have. Like, go around, audit, have that knowledge. Just a quick conclusion. So the gap we're seeing is not just technical, it's cultural and organizational. And culture and organizational are not that difficult to kind of figure out. It just needs some goodwill. It needs some buy-in from leadership. Bridging these gaps requires buy-in from both sides, and that's difficult because each side has their priorities and each side kind of often struggles with talking to the other side. But we need to create a common language, and that's where kind of new people into this area can also help with. Like Hadrian's Wall, we should stop from saying, oh, we have a firewall and we have 2 firewalls or 3 firewalls or 4 firewalls that are people suggesting. We need layers, same as in IT security, onion model. Like, we need layers of security. We need teamwork. We need IT, OT security to work together as one system because we're not separate. We're the same organization. We have the same goals. We need students to develop expertise in both domains. Like, you don't need to be an OT engineer. You don't need to be knowing how to create your nuclear power plant from, the ground up, but you need to understand the area if you want to go into it. And that is not that difficult. And organizations must kind of also start that trajectory. Like, some organizations that you think would have this have only been in this in the like OT security sector for like 5 years, and you're like, so you're doing a critical infrastructure for the UK or for a country, and you've been looking into this since 5 years ago. So we need to kind of speed things up to kind of get into these things. But there's lots of opportunity. I think if you want to stand out, if you want to be not one of 850 people applying for a job, if you want to be one of a handful of people, this is like a very interesting sector to be in, and I don't think we talk about it enough. Pen testing always seems to get the upper hand, but critical infrastructure, keeping our society safe, is it's well worth it. Okay, I think I have a couple of minutes for some quick questions. Yes?
How do you measure an organization's cyber resilience within the space? Because you have to approach like vulnerability assessment differently. Because like you mentioned earlier, it's not like with IT systems. Here you prioritize the availability, so maybe you can't do a pen test because you can't risk it going down. So how would you go about that?
Yes, so pen tests are actually being looked at in these environments, but it's all about scoping. It's all about knowing how far you can go. So you might not want to do it in a live environment, but you can still have the devices set up and being pen tested to understand the vulnerabilities. That's why vulnerability research is such an important domain. And like, when you know your vulnerabilities, start with knowing what assets you had. It's different from IT because we have to prioritize. Not everything can be patched. So we often say there's like 3 levels, for example. You have a patch now, patch sometime, and patch never. And often we're falling in that patch never or patch like sometime in the future. But we're looking at other things to be in place, other like network defenses to be in place to mitigate the vulnerabilities as much as possible. But it's in IT